Good evening, folks. And tonight we're going to talk about the games that we finished last week and the teams that will play this week in order. But first we're going to go by order. The new rankings are Oregon number 1, Ohio State number 2, Texas number 3, Penn State number 4, Notre Dame number 5, Miami number 6, Georgia number 7, Tennessee number 8, SMU number 9, Indiana number 10, Boise State number 11, Clemson number 12, Alabama number 13, Ole Miss number 14, South Carolina number 15, Arizona State number 16, Tulane number 17, Iowa State number 18, BYU number 19, Texas A&M number 20, Missouri number 21, UNLV number 22, Illinois number 23, Kansas State number 24, and Colorado number 25. Okay? This is rivalry week. Ohio State versus Michigan. The biggest rivalry literally in all of college football. No, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's the best rivalry. There's other, of course, if you're a fan of those two teams between Ohio State and Michigan, of course you're going to say it's the best rivalry, but everyone's entitled to their opinion which one is the best rivalry. But of course there's Penn State and Maryland, one of the bloodiest rivalries seems like. Then you have Notre Dame and USC. Then you have Syracuse and Miami, another decent rivalry. Then you have the Iron Bowl between, who was that? Alabama and Auburn. So that's going to be an interesting bowl. Interesting one. So, but let's just watch here. Now we're going to talk about literally every game here. Oregon, they play Washington. So, I don't see how this is going to be. Now, we're going to talk about their opponent and their final score after that. Oregon played Washington. We'll play Washington. Easy peasy. Oregon obviously will be number 1. They shouldn't have any difficulty getting into they're obviously the front runner to the Big Ten Championship, so they should be in there. They'll be the first one to be in. And it'll be interesting how that works out. Now, we move on. Then you got Ohio State. Taking on Michigan. Now, Ohio State pretty much will send a message to everyone. Not just Indiana, but everyone. With the 38-15 stomping of Indiana. They pretty much will made it loud and clear to the Big Ten and Indiana. We didn't come here just to throw down the red carpet for you to walk right into our stadium and just walk all over us or just keep it close. We wanted you to know that your rank number 5, that when Indiana was ranked number 5, that your 5th rank meant nothing to us. And we were not going to take you lightly. And it proved. Despite the early 7-0 deficit, they came back and actually won the game and pretty much proved they meant business. The second half, they proved it. Now, all in honesty, I think Ohio State needs to step it up in the second half in literally the entire game. They cannot play lackluster like that against Michigan. Because you know for a fact, Michigan's going to throw everything they got at Ohio State. You know that for a fact. That's literally how that always works. Now, we jump over to Texas versus Kentucky. Texas beat out Kentucky 31-14. They take on a very good Texas A&M team who is so daggone good. I mean, Texas A&M, despite their lackluster performance against Auburn, I mean, that was 4 overtimes to win. 43-41, they're at number 20. We'll get to them a little later, but we'll talk about that game momentarily. Now, but Texas pretty much will stay strong with Kentucky, and they pretty much will never let off the gas with Kentucky, but they won 31-14. Now, Penn State, I literally don't know. I'm literally lost with this. How did Penn State win this game? How did Penn State pull it off 26-25 over Minnesota? I'd literally love to know how they pulled that off. They got Maryland, a decent Maryland team. I'm not saying Maryland's weak by all means, despite their records showing it that they are. The record says that they were. Michigan coming off a big 50-6 win. Of course, all their fans are going to be all hyped up about that. Of course, it's going to boost their confidence, which I was hoping it would, because obviously they're thinking ahead themselves, but we'll talk about that game momentarily here. And then Notre Dame, who stomped Army 49-14. Ends pretty much well, gives the only unbeaten team left is Oregon. Now, then Wake Forest. Then we jump over here, and they take on a depleted USC team. The quarterback is benched. He said he's transferring next year, so that says a lot as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some ratifications that go on there. And then you have Miami, who defeated Wake Forest 42-14, soundly defeated them. But USC, I wouldn't be surprised, gives Notre Dame a run for their money, but on the long run, I think Notre Dame will win. Honestly. But Miami will take on Syracuse, a battle that's always been known for the blood, is what I call it. And then after Georgia, who beat the pants off of UMass 59-21, will host Georgia Tech. I mean, that's going to be a blood for the ages. Texas and Georgia will most likely be in the mix. Tennessee, I'm not so sure. Tennessee lost to Georgia. Texas also lost to Georgia. Unfortunately, Georgia got beat twice. They got beat by Alabama, who's literally out of the tournament, with 3 losses. We'll talk about their loss momentarily. Now, they play Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a hard team. They've upset a lot of teams that were really good. So they're going to be in for a battle, but I give Georgia more of an edge considering they're at home, but I wouldn't look past them. The winner there, Georgia already has their side secure, so regardless if they win or lose, they have the advantage. So they'll wait Texas and Texas A&M winner. At least that's what it appears like. So now, with that being said, we go on to Tennessee and UTEP. Tennessee demolishes UTEP 56-0. Now they will host Vanderbilt. Actually, they travel to Vanderbilt, and that'll be a good game. I mean, Vanderbilt, they're somebody you do not want to skip over. They've played they upset Alabama. That's one of Alabama's big upsets this year, and literally something that you should never really look over. They almost beat Texas. They were literally that close to beating Texas, and they came up short. And then you have other teams. And then you have SMU taking on Virginia. And SMU taunts Virginia 33-7. They take on California next. And California has nearly pulled off some big wins, big upsets, but they failed to at the very end. And then Indiana, who just got defeated, trounced by Ohio State. They're 8-15. They were exposed. We'll talk about the Big Ten here momentarily in the SEC. They take on a depleted Purdue team who won their first game of the year and since then fell off the tracks. They'll take on Purdue, and then you have Boise State, who defeated Wyoming 17-13. Will take on Oregon State. Their only loss of the year is actually to Oregon by only 3 points. 37-34 against Oregon. And then you have Clemson, who ended up beating the Citadel 51-14. They take on South Carolina, an in-state rivalry. That will be a good game. And then I literally had to throw water on my face when I saw this score. I literally thought I was dreaming when I saw this. When Alabama got destroyed by Oklahoma 24-3. I was like, wait a minute. Alabama only got 3 points? I figured it'd be vice versa. 24-3 Alabama over Oklahoma. Oklahoma. And I saw the score, I'm like 24-3, Oklahoma over Alabama? What? This can't be right. But then I actually looked at it again, and I came back with water and covered off my eyes and dried off my eyes and everything. I'm like, oh my god. It is true. That is 24-3. Oklahoma over Alabama. Now, Alabama clearly not winning anything this year. Unless some magical miracle happens here. I don't know if there will be any miracle. But they take on Auburn. They will take on Auburn in the Iron Bowl, who is, I think Auburn is 6-5. I can't really remember what the record is. If you don't know what the record is, comment down below and tell me what the record is and everything. But Auburn, pretty much, well, if they beat Auburn, great. If they don't, then they're literally finished. They're literally finished at this point if they cannot beat Auburn. They're still alive, but if they get beat by Auburn, they're done. And things are just not looking good right now for them. And if you keep going down the line, then you got Clemson, and then you have taking on South Carolina taking on Wolford, 56-12. Ole Miss ended up, Ole Miss fell to Florida, 24-17. Excuse me, I jumped between the two. And then BYU falling 28-23 to Arizona State. Tulane has a pass. South Carolina, Ole Miss will take on Mississippi State. South Carolina takes on Clemson. Tulane will take on Memphis. Then Iowa State beat out Utah 31-28. They take on Kansas State. It's pretty much real interesting. Then after Arizona State beat out BYU 28-23, they take on Houston. Then obviously I spoke earlier about Texas taking on Texas A&M with a 43-41 overtime win over Auburn. That just shows you Auburn does not quit. Then Missouri beats out Mississippi State 39-20. They take on Arkansas. Then Nevada takes on UNLV beats out San Jose State 27-16. They take on Nevada. Then Rutgers fought Illinois, and Illinois beat out Rutgers 38-31. They take on Northwestern. Then Kansas State beat out Cincinnati 41-14. They take on Iowa State, and Iowa State takes on Kansas State. So that'll be a good one. Then Colorado beat Kansas, fell to Kansas 37-21, and they will take on Oklahoma State. So there's your lineup. Now, the Big Ten this is how the Big Ten is lined up. If Ohio State somehow drastically falls flat on their face to Michigan, which I highly doubt will happen, then Penn State is next in line. And if for some odd reason Penn State doesn't win, then Indiana would be in line. That's how that would work. But I don't see that happening because Ohio State's been playing with a whole bunch of firepower and everything. So I see Ohio State moving on and winning it. If they play like they've been playing, it's a big win for Ohio State. I'll come out with the next rankings here in a few. With that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.